With the news that Pandemic Studios recently closed as part of EA's streamlining program, the developer's final title, The Saboteur, takes on even more significance. Not simply another open-world action title, the game is now officially the farewell to Pandemic. And the good or bad news, depending on how you look at it, is that The Saboteur is a fitting swan song to the developer and is up there with its best work. Although the idea of another World War II game doesn't exactly get the pulse racing, The Saboteur offers something a little different. It's an open-world action game with World War II Paris as its sandbox. And Pandemic has clearly thought about what makes a good sandbox game and identified the key ingredients: a decent story, an atmospheric setting, vertical movement, and good combat. Saboteur tells the story of Sean Devlin, an Irish racing driver who vows to exact revenge on the Nazis following the murder of his friend Jules. What begins as a simple tale of revenge soon becomes more complex as Sean is drawn into the cause of La Resistance, and the story in The Saboteur is, on the whole, pretty well done. The central storyline features some nice set pieces and some interesting characters, our favourite being British agent and turbo slut Skylar Sinclair, which, let's face it, is the best porn star name since Gusty McFlaps. Not only has Pandemic crafted a decent storyline for the game, it also has a fair deal of style about it. On a visual level, the contrast between the oppressive monochrome of occupied areas and the colourful liberated areas is quite striking, and you can feel the change in mood as you switch between the two. This is also where the game's will to fight mechanic comes in. In occupied areas, Sean won't get any help from the locals should he start some shit with the Nazis, but in liberated areas, they'll join him in the battle. Areas can be liberated by completing missions and also by taking out the many free play targets such as Nazi armour, searchlights and guard towers. But if Sean gets spotted in an act of sabotage, you can expect all hell to break loose. Luckily, you have more than a few tricks at your disposal, and Pandemic clearly took some inspiration from other third-person action games like Hitman and Assassin's Creed. For example, stealth plays a large part in the game, like it does in Hitman. Sean can take out enemies with silent attacks and can even disguise himself as a Nazi to get close to well-guarded targets. And, like in Assassin's Creed, vertical movement is also crucial to success. Sean's quite the climber and can scale almost any building in the game. A high vantage point is not only essential to some missions, it can also offer a good escape route when your cover's been blown. Essentially, the gameplay in The Saboteur gives you options. Do you charge straight in, all guns blazing? Or do you snipe from a distance? Or perhaps you steal a Nazi uniform, get up close and personal, and finish the job with a silenced pistol. The choice, as they say, is yours.
Son of a bitch!
Nothing to see here. Nobody special.
There's something quite compelling about the hit-and-run guerrilla warfare in The Saboteur, and the game gives you plenty to do when the main story is over. There are tons of side missions, the odd mini-game kicking around, but more importantly, there's an awful lot of Nazis. In some open-world games, once the story is over, you find yourself at a loss for things to do. Not so in The Saboteur, as you always seem to have a purpose, due to the fact that there are hundreds of free-play targets dotted around the map, and plenty of areas to liberate. You essentially become a Nazi hunter, and it's an awful lot of fun. That's not to say the game doesn't have its problems. The driving mechanic in The Saboteur feels a little simplistic compared to some other open-world games, and the handbrake is basically a get-round-the-corner free button. The frame rate will also occasionally plunge to slideshow levels, although to be fair, this only happened around 3 or 4 times in 30 hours of gameplay. Also, the climbing can be a little glitchy too and doesn't quite feel as smooth as games like Assassin's Creed or Infamous. However, these problems are relatively minor, and it's hard to be disappointed with the Saboteur as a complete package. While its visuals aren't technically impressive, it's undeniably stylish, and the variety of gameplay options and the fact that there's an awful lot to do add a good deal of replay value to the game. There's also a nice progression and unlock system at work, giving Sean some interesting perks as you progress through the game. Overall, the Saboteur is a good final release by Pandemic and is both a fitting swan song to the developer and testament to its quality.